Hey, trail people. You're listening to the Trail Network podcast hosted by Rachel Drake, Leah Yingling, Hilary Yang, and Katie Asmuth. Today, it's just Katie Asmuth and Hilary Yang, and we are so excited to have you back. Just a bit about the podcast. We're here to celebrate the community, connections, and untold stories within trail running. And today, we're going to do something very special. I feel very honored to be able to interview you, Hilary, to recap your Hardrock 100 race last weekend. Let's dive right in. Hilary, how are you feeling?
Hi. Oh my God, Katie. I don't know how I feel. I feel like I'm still in a fog, which it's
Yeah.
Tuesday now, so I'm starting to lose my excuses for still being in a fog, but really it's just been an incredible blur since the race, since I finished on early Sunday morning. We camped another night in Silverton before we sort of headed out and hit the road. And we're actually in Boise, Idaho right now in a hotel room, which is like the first time we've had a hotel room in a while. So gonna take a shower tonight, which is incredible. I did shower after the race, just for the record. That would be really, really bad. But yeah, just like been living the dirtbag camping life for a while. So yeah, coming back to reality and trying to process everything. It's been obviously just a heck of a last week and race weekend, and it's yeah, I'm really proud of it, and also like what happened, you know?
What happened? And I think that is what Hard Rock is all about, right? Like no one gets what they want exactly. Maybe Ludo, but
Yeah,
like
a couple
you
people
are
dig.
thrown, yeah, these curveballs at Hard Rock. It's unlike any other race where with the altitude and that unforgiving terrain, it is just it's a mind and body experience that is unlike any other, it sounds like, or what I got to witness as well. So I will say for our listeners, I was at Hard Rock also. I was there filming Stephanie Case up Handies, and I want to talk a little bit about that because I got to see Billy headed
Hmm.
towards Handies to find Geo, which was really fun. And then I also saw you that day at mile 9 at Cunningham. So we can talk a little bit about that. But then the second day was all Hilary for me. And it was really fun to kind of witness your story. And frankly, from me on, you were killing it. So I'm just saying, I think I'm the good luck charm,
You
but
were the good, that was it,
um,
Katie. Yes, that was the
that's
point. It
it.
turned around.
That's it. It's crazy. The story is going to be about me. No, Hilary, just so from my perspective, your resilience, your grit, your comeback was just absolutely mind boggling. I mean, to how you closed in this race was so inspiring. And I really want to dive in to the actual race itself. But I do think we need to backtrack a bit and for you to talk a little bit about maybe the couple of days leading up to Hard Rock. We did do a Q&A on Instagram and we got a ton of people writing in about with lots of questions that we'll hit at the end. But I do want you to give a shout out to your team, who was there, and sort of how you went about packing for aid stations and kind of like the lead up the week of the race.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, that feels like so long ago, Katie. We basically came from Western States, drove or flew back to LA, packed up the car, and then hit the road with Charlie Salami. And I was trying to get out there as
That's
soon as I
Hillary's
could.
dog. That's Hillary's
That's my
dog for the
dog,
listeners.
yes, our rescue dog that we rescued on our way to Hard Rock a few years ago. So it has a very special place in our heart to have Charlie Salami there with us. But yeah, I wanted to get out there as early as I could. But just with Western States, with all the work that we were trying to fit in between, we got out there exactly 6 days before the race started, which is probably not optimal. I don't know. I'm not an altitude expert, but I think it's either like you get there right before the race and you try to do it with the red blood cells you have, or you want to get there like 3 or 4 weeks before the race. So I did my best. That was all I had. and we camped up at Cunningham Gulch, which is mile 9 on the course, and 10,400 feet, so decent elevation. And I actually felt okay. I was sleeping like okay, and all that. So I was feeling like, somewhat optimistic about the acclimatization there. And my whole crew sort of like made their way out to Cunningham Gulch to camp with me, which was really fun. So in the lead up to the race, we had a couple nights where like basically everyone was out there. And my crew for the race, my crew chiefs were Kevin and Natalie Horan. They're really good friends of ours, and they're super organized people. And just like I love them to bits. And Natalie's a psychologist, and Kevin is just like an engineer, and like their brains are just like super geared towards this. And no offense to my husband Billy, who I love very dearly, but he's not an organized person. He's a creative person. And so I sort of told him we were like planning everything. I was like, no offense, babe, but you're not going to be part of my crew because I just don't think that's your strength. And so
He was very busy doing other things, like
he
filming
was
you
very
all over the
busy.
course.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought
Yeah.
I wanted him to be part of the story, to capture the story, and that's his forte. And I think it was better to have people that were like 1 degree of separation removed from me,
Hmm.
which I can go into later. But even for pacing and stuff, I think emotionally, if I had been out there with Billy, I would have just been like a mess, Like I would have totally been like, this is how I feel, and it sucks. And I was like holding it together a little bit better because of, my pacers and stuff. But anyways, I had Kevin and Natalie Horn, and Kevin also paced me from Uray to Telluride, so over Kroger's. And then my friend Sana, who ran it last year and finished, she paced me from Animas Forks to Uray, which is Engineer Pass. All of these really steep passes, so many passes. And then my friend Megan, who used to be my neighbor when I lived up in Canada and is a good like friend and trail running partner of mine, she drove down from BC and she
Yeah,
paced me
22 hours each way.
22
Shout
hours.
out to
Yeah.
Meg.
And I know, and she'd never been down to Hardrock before. And so she was just super excited to dive in, and she crushed it, which was really fun. And she paced me from Telluride to Chapman Gulch, which is Oscar's Pass. And then Emily Hawgood, who's also a dear friend of mine and amazing badass runner, as you guys probably know, she paced me from Chapman Gulch to the finish. So yeah, I had a full crew. And then I had Katie Asmuth join in, and I knew, Katie, that you would be out there with Stephanie Case on day one and was sort of like, just come and join. I don't know where I'll be, but like, come and join the party. And I was honestly so glad that you were out there because I think you brought a lot of energy. And my favorite Katie moment, just before we get into the whole race, is just like seeing you at Chapman Gulch when I was like desperate to sit in a chair. And you're like, I was thinking we're gonna do like a walk-in aid, and you're just gonna like keep walking right through the aid station. And I'm like looking at you like, Katie, I have been dreaming of sitting down for like 5 hours. This is so funny. It made me laugh because your optimism was incredible. It's like, I
Yeah,
think you expect more from me than I can give you right now.
we can kind of get into Chapman. We should get into that, but that was a really
It was funny.
important aid station because everything changed after that. But I, in the sense of like this urgency, somehow you closed on like 4 hours because we're looking at the time. Well, until you read, had been looking at the projected late time that you may arrive in Silverton to complete the loop, and it was going to be over the
Yeah, we're
cutoffs.
cut off. It's a
So you
problem.
were going to finish at like 48 and a half. So we'll talk about like how that all happened, but we're looking at this and Telluride going like, oh, like we don't have time. And anyway, just from my perspective as somebody who's like, I don't care about what other people are doing. Cause you were like, well, don't we still have like 2.5 hours until the cutoff of this aid station? And I'm like, well, you're projected late. If you continue this pace, you're not going to make it. Like, you're not going to finish, So our crew became very much like, we were very diligent about Hilary, just keep on moving, And anyway, I'll just say it briefly so we don't have to touch on it again. But at Chapman, that bless their heart, some of these volunteers are just so lovely and so just overwhelming, like with warmth and goodness. And they're just like, sit down to different runners coming through. Can we look at your feet? How can we help you? Let's, like take in their sweet time. And I'm like looking at our crew going, oh, this is not happening to Hilary. Like, we cannot just take 40
We gotta
minutes here.
go.
Like, No, no. And that was a 6-minute aid station for you. We were very proud.
Nice.
Anyways,
That's
um,
hilarious.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Anyways,
okay. Should we back up and explain
let's
how I
back
got
up.
to that point where I was
Yeah,
like
let's
worried about
back
being
up.
cut
Let's tell
off
the
from the
story.
race?
So, okay, Cunningham, I saw you. You came in, you were right on your split of what you were expecting. You said, my feet are numb. I think I had a stroke up there. So tell
Yeah.
us what happened in those first 9 miles.
Yeah, so I mean, when the race started in the morning, well, we got an email from Dale Garland, the RD, the night before the race at 9:30 a.m. P.m. the night before the race. So like as everyone's going to bed, being like, "Hey, we're monitoring the air quality because there's wildfire smoke that's coming from like one of the neighboring towns." And just like, no, we're monitoring. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't know there was any fires nearby or anything. And we look at the AQI and it's really bad. It's not great at all. It's like 151, which is like really like all red, you know? And I was like, oh my gosh. So I think I slept quite poorly because I was like kind of worried about the race. All of a sudden, you've got like new worries. Like I have all these other worries, and now I am going to add this to the worries. And in the morning, they said like it's just below the threshold, so we're going to run, which I think was the right call because honestly, the weather changes so fast in the San Juans, and the winds come through, and the rain comes through, and so I was like, I figured there's a good chance that it would clear up, and everyone's worked so hard to get there. So like, I totally don't think they made the wrong call to keep the race going, and they did offer like if you were concerned, you could defer to next year. But like at that point, you're pack on, all checked in, ready to go. Like you're pretty committed, you know? So we start the race and I felt like, okay, excuse me, I'm going to be coughing away because of my old lungs here. But I felt okay going up the first climb. Was taking it so easy. Like I just let everybody go by me. It was pretty cold in the morning, and I did smell the smoke. Like it smelled quite smoky, and I was just sort of like kind of monitoring. And I trying to drink my like scratch because I had this whole nutrition program laid out with like all the scratch and like certain amount of gels per section and all the stuff. So I was being very diligent and like chatting with a couple women and then letting them go because I was like, I just want to chill, like very chill. And as I was going up towards the top of Green Mountain, which by the way, you get up to 13,000 feet within the first like 6 miles of the race, and it's just like you're sort of right out of the gate, like boom, this is Hardrock. Here we go, up high we go. And it was weird. I like lost the circulation in my feet, in the balls of my feet. And so I felt like I was running on stumps. And then my face started losing circulation, which is really weird. I don't know. This all could have been just because of cold. But regardless, I went the first climb trying to get feeling back in my feet and feeling like I was like running on stumps. So it was just sort of a weird start. And I came down into the first aid station just sort of very carefully because I like couldn't move my
Hmm.
feet fully. So when I saw you guys at Cunningham, I was already a little bit like, I don't know, things are like I'm on schedule, but things feel a little like weird. I just like I don't really know, sort of like not going to overthink it right now, but just like, hmm, you know? But everyone was like so excited there. And it's super fun because you come down the like steep slope into Cunningham Gulch and you see everybody down below you for like 2 miles. And so it's
And
pretty
that's
like
like home
exciting.
to you. Cunningham
That's where
is
I've been
home to you.
camping.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's where
I
you've been
camp there
camping
every
for
year.
years. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So many memories in that place, which is very
Yeah.
cool.
So I felt good about that. I felt like, okay, great. Like, I mean, the day is fine. Like we're here. And I started going up Little Giant. And again, like I just didn't feel great. And I was stopping to like catch my breath quite a bit, which I was like, man, I've been coming up and down this like all week and I haven't been this out of breath. Like this is sort of weird to be this out of breath now. I don't feel like I'm pushing extra hard. And I just sort of like was like, I just kept pulling over, letting people go by. I was like, okay, whatever, just like do your thing. And then I started feeling like I just had no oxygen in my legs, like they were
Hmm.
drained. Like it was the weirdest feeling, Katie. It was like there was like lactic it wasn't lactic acid, it was just like nothingness in my legs. Like they just had no power. And I think it's because I wasn't getting deep breaths in, so I wasn't getting oxygen to my muscles. And everything just felt very like weak. And so I'm just like sort of dealing with all this. And as I'm climbing higher, I feel like I'm getting slower and slower. I'm getting passed by everybody. I'm passing nobody. Just sort of like a weird, it's not how you like want to start the race. And I don't feel like I'm like working particularly hard. I just like I couldn't go any faster. And then by the time I got a little higher, I just started feeling like nauseous and I was already sort of struggling to get my nutrition in. And I was like, oh, we're at like mile 10, like this is not great as far as like that plan. And I already was like, no, I don't want to gel, like, ugh, you know. And
Like
by the
almost
time I
nauseous at that point.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
definitely, and just feeling like I couldn't really take in anything because I was so focused on breathing because I felt like someone was like sitting on my chest, like there was like a dumpster truck sitting on my chest, and I was just like, like really,
Hmm.
really high in my throat breathing. And so I don't know how much of that was the wildfire smoke. I don't know how much of it was the altitude. It's sort of like one of the unanswered questions for me right now is just like why
Mhm.
it felt so hard so fast when I'd been moving really well all week, kind of leading up to the race.
Do you think,
But
Hilary, do you think there was
yeah,
any of that was just like a excitement or like pressure on yourself or anxiety? Like, was there any of that? What do you feel like there was maybe some emotion attached, or were you like, I'm calm as a cucumber and I'm just not moving?
I was calm and
Yeah.
I had music on. I had very chill music. I was not like, we're racing. I was like, this is so long. Like I was like every person, I was like, you go by. I don't give a shit. Like I just like, I really was in that zone of just like, I'm not racing yet. I'm just trying to get into the groove. And so I don't think that was it. I mean, I've certainly had races where I did go out too hard or I was excited, but this one, I think my whole attitude was just like, you have a plan, you have splits you're
Yeah.
trying to hit, you're just like, you're in it, like, um, so yeah,
Mm.
I really don't know. It's driving me a little crazy to be honest, because by the time I got up to Stony Pass, which is mile 12, I knew Billy was going to be up there waiting. And by the time I saw him, I felt like I could barely like smile at him, like I felt so awful. I was like trying to be excited because I saw him and he was filming, but I was just like all I could muster was like this weak little like smile, and I was just like as I went by, and I was like, oh my
Mm.
gosh. And I just like kind of looked at him and I was like, this feels really hard. And he was already looking at me and he's like, you're kind of way behind where I thought you'd be. Like, are you okay? And I'm just like, I don't know what's going on, It was like just really sort of weird. And I just remember thinking like that was the hardest 13 miles I've ever done in my life. Like, oh my God, we're in trouble.
We just have begun.
We just
Yeah.
begun.
Quick break to thank Osprey for sponsoring this episode of the show. Osprey has been a leading maker of premium outdoor backpacks and bags for over 50 years. There are many reasons I turned to Osprey, but one is because of their pillars of sourcing sustainable materials. By incorporating recycled and Blue Sign approved materials into their products, they're helping to keep harmful chemicals out of our environment. Osprey has eliminated PFAS based durable water repellent in 100% of their textile products. And as of fall 2024, 100% of Osprey's products have 100% recycled content in the lining fabric, and 99% of Osprey's products have 100% recycled content in the main body fabric. Osprey continues to reduce environmental impacts and produce more sustainably designed products every year. This is the type of company I want to support, and I know you do too. Learn more at osprey.com. Now back to the show.
Yeah, and I passed the live stream guys, same thing. They're like, "Hi, Hilary," and they're sort of looking at me, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, guys. I can't move. Like I have to like stop and catch my breath just to like say hi. And um,
Mm.
I know it's so weird, but like you said at the beginning, like everybody has problems at Hard Rock. Not a single person out there didn't have problems. I think mine got worse from here, and that's where I really slowed down even more. But like you don't run Hard Rock without problems, and I think I did understand that going into it, but I understand that even more now, just having gone
Yeah.
through the race. Just I mean, even Katie or Zach Miller or any of these guys, like they were all very open about the fact that they also had huge problems with eating and all this stuff, and they were living out there for months training on the course. And so I think that's just like one of the things to accept about Hard Rock is that you could have a really good day, like a Ludo day or a Katie day, but like it's still just really, really hard. And so many things have to come together, for it to go right. And in my case, I think I had a really good plan. I had a really good crew and all this stuff. But I do think so, kind of carrying on like on the course, what I kind of underestimated was how long it would be before I saw my crew, because they allow crew at Sherman Aid Station, which is, excuse me, mile like 31, but it's off road and very hard to get to, and none of our crew vehicles could get out there. And so I said, hey guys, like, don't worry about it. I'll send a drop bag and I'll see you at Animas Forks, which is mile 44. But I don't think I really thought about how many hours that was going to be until I saw them. It was just
Yep.
turns out like a lot of hours. Like that would have been 12 hours from when I saw them in Cunningham Gulch is when I ended up seeing them again. And so that's just a huge amount of time to troubleshoot and to have everything sort of on you,
And you're
you
without a
know?
pacer that
No
whole time.
pacer. And the aid stations up there are really remote. And like basically, there's a few of them in a row that are just sort of like water and like a little bit of like soda, and that's it. Like they're really kind of minimal because their volunteers are hiking in for that. So I had my water filter and I had like my bags of scratch nutrition and stuff like that. But I was just like, yeah, I was getting so nauseous. I was struggling to drink the scratch nutrition, and the water was more spaced out than I thought. Everything just sort of was like not really like flowing well, and I wasn't keeping up with my nutrition. And I'm sure I was getting way behind with my sodium. And that was the
Mm.
other thing is my sodium was mixed in with my scratch. And so I think I didn't have the ability to just like kind of dump extra like electrolytes in without getting the scratch in. And the scratch was making me nauseous. And so I wasn't drinking that enough. So it
Because
was
you were
sort of
using
like
high
this
carb scratch also.
high carb. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So we were just sort of in this like vicious cycle. And I'd done like a training race. I did a 50-mile training race a month before Hardrock and used everything the same and executed it perfectly in heat. And it all went really well. And I was feeling so
At sea
confident.
level,
Right
though.
at sea level. I know.
But
Yeah.
that's the thing about
Details,
Hard Rock. It's
details.
like you can have it so dialed, and then it's just the effort, the breathing, the altitude with the heat. Oh, we should get to the heat also. Holy smokes.
Yes,
Um,
it was hot.
it was hot. Okay, but can we backtrack a second because I know Billy saw you. So I'm coming down from Handy's and I see Sarah Tar, who was also photographing you, and Billy coming up towards Handy's. And Handy's is 14,000 feet and it's the highest peak of the race. And Billy was smiling so big. It's probably one of my favorite moments of the whole day was Billy's excitement to see you on Handy's. Like he was
Mm.
over the moon. I've never seen him smile that big. Like his cheeks hurt, like it was so big. He's like, it's been so long since I've seen my girl, like so adorable. And he's like, it doesn't matter how long, she's getting the thing done. I'm so proud of her. Just so like, we are
Oh.
here for the long haul and whatever it takes. Anyways, so what happened when you saw Sarah and Billy coming over Handy's?
Oh my gosh. Well, first I had to get to them, Katie, and I was getting slower and slower as I went. And I actually sat at the Burroughs aid station at the bottom before you go
Yeah.
up to Handy's for like, I don't know, I haven't looked at my splits, but I want to say I was there for like 20, 30 minutes because I was like at the point where I was like taking 3 steps and then like doubling over and gasping. And I was like, how am I going to
Wow.
go up to 14,000 feet? Like it was so weird. Like I was on a flat road for 4 miles leading into Burroughs, and I was actually on my hands, like hands on knees, just like trying to deep breathe. It was a flat road, and I'm like,
It's a flower.
and now I'm
So
gonna
this is
climb
mile just for our listeners.
4,500 feet.
Yeah, this is Burrow. So I think Handy's is what, like 37, 39 miles or
Hmm.
so. So Burroughs would have been, yeah, like a couple miles before that. Before, right? Am I right there?
Yeah, I'm like, I can probably pull this up for you.
Because I think
Burroughs
Animus
was
was 44.
32.6.
Okay. Yep. Cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And so I just knew what was coming, and so they're like, you have to go up to a 14er and then a 13er. Like you go down and then you go back up to 13, and then you go down to your aid station, your crew. And they were like, I was white as a ghost. Apparently, I didn't realize this, but my crew said when they saw me at Animus that I looked like just like all the blood was drained from my face, and they were like, we're kind of concerned about you. Like you don't look great. I couldn't get anything in the aid station. Everything they gave me, I was like gagging, just smelling it. And there was a couple medics there that were so kind, and one of them ran it last year, Caitlin, and she was like, this was me last year, and she's like, honestly, I did like 60 miles on Mentos. She's like, if all else fails, like there's 10 calories in a Mentos, you can just keep eating that. And I looked at her and I was like, we're kind of at that point, aren't we? Like we're really like desperate times here. Like so much for like 60 grams of carbs an hour. And now I'm like, okay, 10 calories in a Mentos. Okay. Um, but they were just so lovely, and what I loved about it was just the kindness, and like the wanting to troubleshoot and wanting to help me, and like the lack of judgment, and just sort of like, we're in it. This is so imperfect. This is so not what you wanted it to be. And just like, what can we do to sort of keep you moving
Yeah.
forward? And it was really, really kind. And I haven't had to use aid stations like that in a while, because I don't race a lot, but also like I've had crew and stuff, right? And so to sort of be like in the stage where for 12 hours I was really reliant on everybody at the aid stations to help me, like that was sort of, yeah, it was kind of special. And so they patched me up the best they could, and they sent me out with like a little baggie of Mentos and Gin Gins candies. I was like, we're fine, we're totally fine.
But like, were you like, how are you mentally in this moment? So you're heading up to the 14er. You're hoping you're going to see Billy, but you still aren't going to see your crew for another, 12 miles or so. So how are you mentally? Were you like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, or are you like, well, this is my day, kind of accepting the day as it came?
I think a bit of both. I think I was really disappointed, because I really did
Yeah.
feel like I had mm, like more fitness to offer, and mentally
Yeah.
was so ready. And so I think I was like definitely in that stage of just being really like sad that this was how my day was going, but wasn't ready to give up yet. Like I wasn't thinking like I can't do it, but I was just aware it was this huge climb up Handies, and it was so daunting. And so eventually it was just like, don't think about it. You know what actually inspired me? There was like a couple women sitting in the aid station, and they were all like super lovely and encouraging. And one of them was this older Japanese lady, and she was just so cheerful. And she was on the women's panel before the race, and she actually shared she'd like beaten cancer, and she was
Uh,
like out there running. And I looked at her, and I totally had that moment of just being like, Hilary, this is so imperfect, but like just get out there and like make the best of this situation. And
mm,
like, here are these women that are like, nobody's having a great day, but just you just got to do it. Like, this is hard rock,
yeah.
and
We're all
sort of
out
this
here
is what you,
struggling together.
yeah, this is what
Yeah.
you came for in many ways. And so I think that helped. And I went out with her, and we actually chatted for a little bit, and went together. And then I ended up just sort of like chugging up there. And it was so slow, Katie. Like, I was like pulling over all the time, just like having to catch my breath. And I just sort of like, I just did it. I almost just locked my brain down and was just like, 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, take a deep breath, try to, like, and then just keep going. And as I got up to the top, finally, like, it was so beautiful. Like, the golden light was just hitting all the
Mm.
ridges at the top. And because of the wildfires, there was like this bright red glow to the sky. And I was able to kind of come up out of myself and like look around and really take it in, which I'm really glad that, that's what I wanted from this race, was to actually be present. And I was able to just sort of be like, wow, like, here I am. And sort of going over Handy's, like, had that moment of just being like you're kind of on top of the world. Like, it's such a beautiful view, and you can see the little line of runners all snaking their way up and then snaking their way over to the American Basin. But I knew Billy was out there, and I knew we were like losing our light. And the filmmaker and the creative in me was really stressed out about the fact that we were losing this beautiful light, and I wasn't going to see him, which was so funny. So I started like really trying to shuffle down the hill as fast as I could, because I was like, I gotta get to Billy, I gotta get to Billy. And then all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to be sick. And I just like vomited just like everywhere. And
Oh,
that was the first time I actually vomited. And all the like ginger ale that I'd sipped on, and like the watermelon I'd like managed to get, everything was just like came out of me. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, excuse my French, but um, yeah, it was just like,
oh,
this is going to be even harder, because there go the few calories that I had in me. And so, yeah, it was just like one of those moments where I was like, oh no, like, we're not done yet. We're not out of the woods yet. But I just kept going, and I vomited like 5 times going down the American Basin. I just like, once I started, I couldn't stop. But I was
did
just
you
like,
see Billy and Sarah?
no, but I just like knew. I knew that they were at the top of the 13er. I just like somehow knew that.
Okay.
And I was like, I got to go down the basin, and I got to climb back up to 13 to see them. And I got to do it before the sun sets, which is in like 40 minutes or whatever it was. And so I was just like really focused. And then as I like started to climb back up, I could see these two like silhouettes kind of huddled on the top of the ridge. And I was like, it's them. I just know it's them. And so I started like kind of yelling and waving my poles in the air. and they stood up, and I could all of a sudden see the like flurry of panic of like, she's finally coming, which was really cute. But even then, I'm like trying to get to them, and I had to keep stopping and like doubling over and like, I'm coming, and like the lights going down. It's just like, but I finally got up to them, and it was so good to see them. And it was just like, I actually like stood at the top there and just sort of like took it in, because I was like, at this point, like this was my mission. I was just trying to get to them, and then I'm gonna worry about like everything else that is to come. And we just like had a moment, and it was like really beautiful. We got the last of the beautiful sunset, so it was cool. And then shuffled down. I mean, and this is where, like, I think I didn't have enough contingency plans, because I was going to pick up my bigger headlamp at Animas Forks, thinking I was going to arrive there at like 4 p.m., not 9 p.m. And so I had like my small little headlamp with me, which was like the tiny little ones. And it was just like not enough, and it was pitch black. And so I ended up having to do the whole descent in the pitch black with a really shitty headlamp. And so that was like just sort of another thing where I was sort of kicking myself, because I'm like, Hilary, you should have known. Like, you were planning to have this like day that went perfectly, but like you didn't have these contingency plans. So, anyways, a lot of learnings of just sort of like realizing like how little you can plan for timing at Hard Rock, and how much you have to be prepared for being out there longer. But
Yeah.
came that down that descent, and
Hillary, can I cut in for a
yeah,
second? Your two sunsets were the best parts of the course, which is
they
pretty
were,
epic. And we're going to
they
get to
were,
that. But like, I'm thinking of that
yeah.
now. How amazing to see sunset at Handy's. I mean, it
Hmm.
feels sort of
Hmm.
dreamlike, I mean,
It
I'm sure you
is.
felt sort of in a dream also. Like,
I've,
wake me up,
I've
please.
only been up there in the
But
middle of the day before, and it's so beautiful as the light changes and you get all the layers and stuff. And so I definitely was like taking that in
yeah.
as much as I could. And then, but yeah, once it got dark, I got down to like just before Animas Forks, and I think all the downhill jostled my stomach more. And so then I like
Mm.
puked a whole bunch on the road, like heading up to Animas Forks, which was also like super embarrassing, because there's all these crew cars coming up to crew their runners. And I'm like vomiting in full illumination of their headlamps, and they're all leaning their heads out the window as they go by, being like, "Are you okay?" And I'm just like, just leave me,
Just
just
don't
like
look at me. Yeah.
leave me here, like.
Yeah.
But I finally got up to Animus, and that was definitely like, I was really struggling. Like, I was just so sad. I was like really struggling with how the day was going. It was good to see my crew, but I was also just like, what is happening, and how am I gonna like do this? How am I gonna keep going, guys? Like, we're at mile 44. Like, there's so far to go. And but they were all like incredible, and just sort of like, like trying everything, like, what can we do? They were trying to get me to eat noodles and miso soup, because we talked about like some savory foods. But like, honestly, I got in a couple bites, and I was like, I think this is not going well. So they like just sort of sent me out of the aid station with a quesadilla and some miso soup in one of my flasks. And like, they were trying to just be like, just like keep eating as you go. And that's where I picked up my friend Sana, first pacer, and we're going up the like long climb up to Engineer Pass. First of all, I was just thinking by that point, like, I've done so much climbing already, and I'm not even a third of the way down the climbing. I think maybe at that point I was just one third of the way down the climbing, and you're just sort of like, oh my gosh, like there's so many passes to go, and we're going back up to 13,000 feet. I just came from 13,000 feet, like it's just sort of like this Groundhog Day, like, like
It never ends. How
it
was it
never
with
ends.
Sana? Since Sana raced Hard Rock last year for her first Hard Rock.
Yeah.
How was that experience? Because we've heard stories, but I'd like for you to tell the listeners, how was that section with Sana?
It was really good. I think I had the right people at the right time, because in that
Mhm.
section I was still in the low, and I wasn't able to like turn it around. And so she was able to share her experiences of being in that low, and she had like horrible issues as well, a lot of vomiting, a lot of like everything. And she was able to just sort of encourage me, like, just let it go, like, don't fight it, like, it's okay, like, it doesn't mean you're not going to finish, you just got to sort of like be in it right now. And so that was actually like good. And I
Mm.
probably puked like 15 times with her up Engineer Pass, like hands and knees, just like vomit all over my shoes. I was past the point of being able to even like control it. And that's where a lot of people passed me, a lot of women passed me, and it was just sort of like it was just like one of those moments where I was just like, at this point, all I care about is survival. Like I'm so in my own little world right now. But she was just so kind. I'm just like, I kept being like, I'm sorry, I'm so disgusting right now, and I just like, you're just like a hot mess. But having her there was really good. And we just sort of like kept going like as much as I could. And then I'd bend over and puke again. And then we keep going for another couple minutes. And she was like still trying to get me to eat food. Like, bless her heart. I tried it. I did try. Like every time someone asked me to eat food, I tried because I was committed to trying. And so I would like try to nibble on the quesadilla and then nope, that would come right back out. And I tried the miso soup and then that came out my nose and I was like, nope. And like, like, but I was trying everything. And then we got over the top of Engineer Pass finally and we started sort of shuffling down to the aid station. And I think that's where I had the Mentos. And I was like, yeah, okay, like that's okay, like the mint wasn't, I
10
didn't hate it.
calories per
I didn't
mento.
hate
Let's go.
it.
But maybe that's
Right.
all it takes, to get through Hardrock.
Well, honestly,
Oh,
like I
goodness,
bet you if
goodness.
you polled people on how much they actually consumed versus like what they thought they would, it's like
Yeah,
people run on fumes, like way more than we realize because it's just so hard to eat up there.
yeah.
And you do get so I think pretty much everyone I've talked to puked at least a few times. I think I had a longer period where I couldn't get anything in, which sort of put me in a deficit, but like you don't do that race without problems. But I did get into Engineer Pass aid station and I was able to eat a few orange slices. And that was like, it was like these tiny glimmers of hope. I was like, okay, orange slices. Okay, or Mentos and orange slices. All right, all right, all right. Like we're doing great now.
We're
Um,
killing it.
yeah, we're really crushing it. One orange and two Mentos in like 8 hours. Awesome.
Oh my
Um,
God.
but just sort of kept shuffling down to U-Ray, and everyone had sort of told me if you get down to U-Ray, it's lower, you're going to feel better. It's the middle of the night, it's cooler because it had been so hot during the day. So I was very much just sort of like get to U-Ray, which we did eventually. And, but like all these descents are so technical. Like like the course is just something else. And there's no gimmies. There's no just sort of like, oh, I'm going to float down this nice trail. Like everything is like crossing creeks and your feet are wet and you're having to pay attention to the terrain or you're going over like scree on a boulder field or it's really exposed. Like you're constantly like really having to pay attention to every foot, which
Well,
in a
that
sense keeps you
descent
awake.
into Uray is terrifying. Like
Very
very
exposed.
consequential. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
not even, I thought that was the most consequential of the course, Katie, when I was like doing my scouting and stuff. It's not. There's other sections that are way worse.
Okay.
It's just the
Like how
course.
are there, yeah, it's just amazing. Yep.
No, I know. It's amazing there's not more like rescues and incidences. I
Yeah.
think it's a testament to everybody that does this race being an accomplished athlete that has got experience. And you should. Like, you should not get into this race your first year in the lottery. I'm sorry, but like, you need to learn how to do this stuff in the mountains and problem solve before you
Yeah.
should do hard rock. Which is just like a side note and something I really am grateful for now that I've had so much time in the lottery
Yeah.
because I learned through all that. And I was using all of those tools in my toolbox when I was out there and all of those experiences in other races and just like trying to sort of problem solve. But yeah, we got to Uray finally, and I knew I was picking up my second pacer, Kevin, and he was going to pace me over Kroger's. And I sat in Uray, and I think I managed to get a few bites in of something there. I'm trying to remember what I got in, but I was still like, I was really struggling. And I remember at that point was when we started talking about like cutoffs and timing, because I had it in my head that I really wanted to take a nap and just like, I wanted to put my feet up and just like relax my stomach because my stomach muscles were so sore from vomiting so much that running downhill actually really hurt. Like it was burning. I don't know if that was like stomach acid or if it was like what it was, but I was just sort of like, I need to lie down. I need to just like for an hour, like I'm going to do a full reset. I don't care, all this stuff. And my crew was like, so fun fact, you don't have that much time as a buffer. Like we don't think you should. We think you can take like 10 minutes and that's about it. And so that was sort of this like hard realization moment to me of just like how different my day was, where I was like, oh, like I don't even have the like time I thought I had to like do a full reset. I have to just like problem solve and keep going. Like, oh, okay, crap, you know?
Yeah.
And that was just like, yeah, that was, and that was the sort of the story for the next couple aid stations was like every time I came into the aid station, I lost like another half an hour against the clock, despite moving as fast as I could. And that was like wild to me. Like as someone that is fairly efficient and a like decent runner, like I just, that in itself was so humbling to realize that I'm really not moving very fast. I'm trying my hardest, but like I'm just losing time against the clock here and I'm going to run out of time. And so that was just sort of like, oh my God. But they patched me out up and sent me out of Uray with Kevin. And bless his heart, he like, I think he chugged 3 Celsius before we started. And he was just like chipper and over caffeinated and like so excited about being out there and like telling me how beautiful it was and how beautiful the sunrise was going to be and all this stuff. And it was sort of contagious, you know, like after a while you couldn't help but be sort of brought into like, okay, like, yeah, yeah, it is really pretty. Yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, this is, you know, we're doing Hardrock. And it totally helped, but it was just sort of funny because it was such a contrast. I was just sort of looking at him like, what world are you from right now? You know, like, and that was where I took my first dirt nap. And I asked, I was like, I need a 5 minute dirt nap. And so we had like pulled over on the side of Campbell Road as we're climbing up. And I lay down. And he told me later that he only gave me 4 minutes. He told me it was 5 minutes, but I was out. I actually snored. Like I was out so fast.
Okay, comment here. So
Yeah.
something that he told us was that you had been talking about like for 2 hours, I want a dirt nap. And he's like, okay, just a little bit further. Like he made you wait until you were basically like crumbling over to because he's like, I don't want you to lay there and toss and turn trying to sleep for 15 minutes. Like we don't have that kind of time. So until you are going to just crumble over and pass out, then we're going to continue to move forward. And so he said that that's what he's like, you would kind of forget. And then it literally 2 hours went by until you were like crumbled over, like, I'm out. And then just like zonked out, like snoring for 4 minutes. And then he's like, okay, time's up, you know? Which I just think that's a
Uh,
really helpful tool for our listeners, you know, not to like, okay, I think now I'm sleepy. It's like, no, wait until you're actually ready to pass out. Like the body can't function anymore. So, anyways, I thought that was
totally.
kind of fun.
Yeah, and like, you know, it's interesting, like being on the other side of it now, just like how much my crew was like treating me like a little child, but like that's exactly what I kind of needed was just sort of like reduce things to the simplest thing, you know, format for me and just give me like the information I need to know and just like all of that stuff. But like also never made me feel badly or never made me feel like I wasn't good enough or I wasn't doing enough. And like it just like a really good balance of everything. And it's really hard to crew someone and to be there for them when they're your friend and you see them suffering like that. And you know, like, but they were all amazing. But yeah, the dirt nap, it really did help. It just like reset my eyeballs and help me sort of like greet the day like a new day and sort of be like, okay, like yes, like you know, and as we went up Kentbird Road, that climb was like the least technical of all the climbs, and so I was actually able to like sip on a few things and start to feel just like a little bit better. And I really did feel like as the sun came up, I was like, okay, like yeah, we're still in this. Like obviously we're not having the day we wanted, but it was the first time since I started puking where I actually was like, okay, maybe I'm gonna like get through this, you know? Because I lost that for a while. I wasn't like I'm quitting, but I lost my ability to see a way forward through everything, you
Yeah.
know? And so that was sort of cool. So we climb up and I was able to get a little bit food at the aid station before we went up to Kroger's Pass. And Kroger's Pass is just like iconic, right? Like there's an aid station at the top that's perched on the top of the pass. It's very steep. It's actually like very exposed and pretty scary. And there's like three no fall climb zones where you're like full like pitches of sort of and I come from a rock climbing background, but like definitely was like looking around me going like I can't fall right now, like this is not good.
There's
And that was
one
sort of
rope at a certain point that you can use. Is that right?
yeah, that's right, and at the very top of the pitch
At
before
the
you
very top.
hit
Okay.
Kroger's Canteen. And that's like super snowy and like pretty icy. And so
Mm.
again, that it's like you need that because if you were to just like slip and have your foot slip out, like you're going all the way back down to the bottom to a boulder field. And so I think that just sort of like impressed me about the course because I knew it was technical and all this, but oh my gosh, like all these runners are going up there in this sleep deprived and exhausted state, and you can't make a mistake. Like it's really, you have to be very precise and very thoughtful. And that was just sort of this reminder of how crazy Hard Rock is, you know? And we finally got up to Kroger's Canteen, and it's like they're perched on top of the pass there. And like, I think they actually rope in at night, especially like it's that small of an area.
And
And
the wind
they,
whips up there
oh,
too.
yeah,
I mean, they get
yeah,
all
yeah,
of the
yeah.
elements. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, they're so badass. Like, that's a fun place, but like it's notorious for a reason. They're also notorious for their pierogies, which I can't eat because gluten free, but their tequila, which I knew about, and I had told my crew before the race, I was like, one of my goals for the race is to do a shot of tequila at Kroger's because it just seemed like in the spirit of Hard Rock, this was sort of like, I don't know, part of it, right? Like as far as just like this whole experience. And so I was feeling like better enough that Kevin and I did like a little shot of tequila at the top. And he was so cute. He was like, just a thimbleful for her. She hasn't eaten anything in a long time. He's like, and they start pouring it. He's like, that's enough, you know? And it was like just this tiny little
Just
amount,
like to get the taste. Like we
just
don't
like
need the
wet the
whole, yeah,
whistle.
yeah, yeah.
No, no, no. I was like, I don't need to be drunk to go down this like crazy pass. Trust me. It was
Right.
more just like psychologically sort of being like,
Yeah.
hey, like we're here for the experience. Like I want the experience. Like that's what I wanted to sort of remind myself of. And so we did a little cheers and did our little like thimbleful of tequila, and I actually like had some ginger ale, and even going down the pass from that, it's just like straight down and scree, and you're like skiing your way down it like just the whole way down. I was like, this is so insane, you know. Like um but Billy and Sarah were down at the bottom there too. They'd hiked up from Telluride, and that was really fun because I was actually starting to run again, and they hadn't seen me since Ray when I was still feeling pretty crappy. And so it was a huge turnaround. I think it like kind of marked one of the moments where they're like, oh my gosh, like she's actually got color in her face, like she's talking normally, like this is turning around, you know? And that was really exciting. And I know Kevin had been sort of like messaging my crew whenever he got a bit of service, being like, she's coming back. She's, you know, like just sort of giving them some hope, like we're still in it.
Yeah.
And
I
and
was in
that was just,
Telluride getting those
yeah.
messages and it was like,
Yeah.
ah! Like everybody's
Right.
so excited. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I heard like, we're getting you a burger, and I there was like a whole flurry of activity to get me a gluten-free burger in Telluride, which I was kind of like, I don't know, that sounds like a bridge too far, guys. Like, but I didn't want to like say no to anything. So I was just like, okay, well, I'll try, you know, like do my best. And so we came down the climb, and again, it was just starting to feel like I like myself a bit more. Like certainly not perfect. Like I still felt like I'd been punched in the stomach a bunch of times, but I was like, I feel like human again. Like we're in this. And so got into Telluride, which is where I saw you, Katie, and everyone was
You
there.
also took a
And
Zofran in that
yes, I
little
did. Yeah,
stretch.
I
So
did.
an
And that
anti-nausea
really
med,
helped.
it's prescription only, but a lot of runners use Zofran in these high altitude races.
Yes.
And so we knew that you had taken that. That was like key information for us at Telluride because we were like, have this gluten-free hamburger ready to go. And we're like, maybe she'll have a bite or two, you know? So
Yeah,
that for
I
us
think
was
that
really
really helped.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, because I tried the ginger chews and that wasn't enough. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
upgraded to the like the real, not anti-nausea medicine. And that I think really helped me be able to get some food in my stomach when I got to Telluride. So I was able to like sit there and eat like three-quarters of the burger. Like it was really good. I was so impressed with myself. And I think everyone was like, she's back, you know? And it was just sort of crazy because I was like at that point, I want to say like 8 hours over what I'd like projected I was going to be there at. And we just like thrown the plan out the window. And I didn't know you guys were all worried about like the cutoffs at that point. I knew I was getting closer to the cutoffs, but I just like it was just such an interesting mental shift because it was like you have to just forget about like everything that's happened, Hillary. You have to just be present and like do your best from here on out, and like that's all you can do, and just sort of like letting go of the expectations around the race, like what I wanted, like just everything, you know, just sort of like truly, I think, submitting to like what Hard Rock was going to be for me, and just sort of like welcoming the whole experience and just being like, I have to just be grateful for what I have here, and look forward. And I think that was like a huge just sort of mindset shift. And I just like I let go of everything. I was just sort of like, we're here. this is what we got, guys. Like, I'm doing my best, you're doing your best, we're all showing up, and like everybody's working so hard to get me to the finish line, and we're just gonna like keep doing that. And here we go. So that was just sort of like, I think, a cool moment that I'll always remember, sort of just that like mindset, like, okay, like this is where we are. That's the beautiful thing about 100-mile races, or just like ultra running, in these moments where you're so vulnerable, because you're just like, this is me, this is it, this is all I got, but I can promise you I'm giving everything, you're giving everything. Like, this is just like, we're meeting in this very human way right now, and that was really cool. And so many volunteers were just so lovely and cheering me on. And I actually did like a full little outfit change, which was nice, like changed my shorts, my underwear, because I was getting a little bit of chafing, socks, retaped my feet. Kim, my friend Kim, who's one of the foot care experts at Hardrock this year, she was at Telluride, and she retaped my feet, because like going through all those creek crossings, the tape, no matter like how good it is, it just like all ended up sort of bunching, and that over like hours and hours was starting to like create new hot spots and stuff like that. So it's just like all these things I was sort of learning, and like trying to stay on top of as I went. But anyways, left Telluride and went up Oscar's Pass with my friend Meg, just feeling like, okay, like we got a shot at this. But it was also like super hot. It was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon by that point, leaving
Yep, you had an
Telluride, or
ice
later.
bandana.
Had a nice bandana, but climbing up Oscar's Pass is like all treed up this like huge gully beside this waterfall, and it was like oppressive heat. And I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
SoCal heat adjusted, like I've been training in heat, but this was like this humid heat that was like kind of like a blanket that was like on top of you, and it was really hot. And I think when you look at the forecast for those mountain areas, you sort of are like, okay, like mid 70s doesn't seem that bad, type of thing. But in those trees, it just held it. So all the way up Oscars was really, really hot. But I think I was just sort of like, I was in that zone where I was like, I've turned a corner. We're just going to do this. And so I just kept dunking water on myself, and like every chance I got. The ice bandana, so clutch, really, really was, I think, very important in that section, to let me like keep eating and like sipping on things. I still wasn't getting in a ton of food. I think the only time I was really successful with food is when I stopped and I actually like caught my breath, and then I could maybe get a little something in and then keep going again. So I was just sort of learning to adapt as I went. I was like, well, that's just what we got to do. Like, if I want to eat something, I have to like actually take a minute and stop, and all that. But yeah, we finally got up to the top of Oscars, which has this like false summit. Is you go up these like rolling kind of crazy hills, and then you look ahead and you see runners like up in the next one ahead of you, and you're like, no, like one of those ones. And got up there, and there was this like crazy snow chute that you had to like slide down to get to the trail, which was like very steep, like 45-degree angle. And I didn't want to like slide down it, because I didn't want to like chafe my butt. And like I was just sort of like,
Like, these
so
are
I was
new
trying to like
shorts.
sidestep it. Right. I was trying to sidestep it, and then I'd fall a little bit, and then I'd sort of get back up again. But like all these things require your muscles to be really firing and like stabilizing. And you're like asking a lot of your legs. It's not like a race where you can just sort of like dead leg it in at mile 75 or 80. Like, you're really having to ask a lot from your body as far as your balance and your like agility. And if you mess it up, you're gonna like crash in a boulder field, like that's why I didn't want to lose control on the snow field, was it ended in a bunch of boulders, just
Yeah, a
so many
little
different parts.
little foresight
Just,
to what
yeah,
happens later. So little
right.
little
Totally. I
teaser.
know. I know. And then from Oscars, again, like people just don't talk about how crazy technical this course is for every single part of it. And I was sort of told, oh, it's only a few miles of Jeep road to get down to Chapman Gulch aid station, which, I mean, I guess it's a Jeep road if it's like the most insane ATV you've ever seen in your entire life, but it's not a Jeep road. It's like a boulder field that everything's moving, and it's all these switchbacks, and the runners up and like above you are kicking rocks that are crashing down beside you, and you're kicking rocks, and you're kind of skiing down, and then rocks are hitting your ankles, and they're like as big as dinner plates, and you're just sort of like trying to stay on your feet. And it was like this all the way down. So you were just like, again, you could never relax. You were just sort of like constantly like stabilizing and what's coming next. And like you're kind of skiing down this thing, and get all the way down to Chapman Gulch, which is like catching us up to where I saw you at the walk and
And
aid
your crew's
station,
like, you're
Katie.
not sitting down. And you're like, oh,
You
yes,
know,
I am.
I know, right? And like at that point, we're mile
Well,
82 on the
well,
course, and I'm
can I
like,
say to
Katie,
Meg?
do you know what I just did?
Yeah, no
Like,
way. Yeah. So Meg says to me later, she goes, Katie, that was absolutely insane. So she's a trail runner. She's like, I'm fit.
she's a
Like,
mountain runner. Yeah.
yeah. And she's like, there's no way I was going any faster than what Hilary was doing. Like, and I was fresh, like it was wild how crazy technical this was. And I am totally spent. It was pretty cool that somebody that came in fresh who's fit and like an athlete is like, I'm out, tapped out.
Yeah,
So you get to this aid station and
totally.
we're like worried about cutoffs. And so we're like, why don't we just kind of switch your packs? Like we had a whole plan, like we're not letting her sit because we had seen these amazing volunteers going like, why don't you sit? Take a minute, and we're like, and you're like, Katie, I need 10 minutes. And you were really sweet about it. You're like, just 10, Katie, just 10. And so then we were like, okay, like you did sit and we like got you some Coke and then
Pizza.
pizza. That's right. But we didn't let you sit to eat the pizza. We like handed it to you and you were
So
like, you need to
rude.
walk. So rude. But we were like, okay, it's been 10 minutes. It had just been 6 minutes, but we were like, 10, it's been 10, let's go. And you were picking up Emily, who was like, oh, she is finishing this thing. Like, I am not letting
Yeah,
this girl, whatever. But at that point you had, like, had already made up some time from when we were
yeah,
worried about you at Telluride. So you were like on your way to finishing, but also Emily was like, I don't want her to have to sprint in, and not enjoy this experience. Like I want it to be like, you're going to finish no matter what, like have a couple hours of buffer so that she actually feels like she can enjoy the experience. So let's talk about you leave with Emily and what happens after that, because there's some dinosaurs involved. There's some broken poles. There's some whatever, like no broken femur, but
yeah.
let's talk through, and that sunset. So let's walk through those 18 miles with Emily.
Yeah, so we leave the aid station with my pizza in my hand, which I wasn't allowed to eat sitting down. And then I immediately, like, I'm trying to eat it because I'm just holding this thing and I've got my poles in the other hand. And I can't because I'm trying to breathe at the same time. And it's like dried pizza. So I look at Emily and I'm like, hey, if you want me to eat this, I'm going to stop. And it was like the beginning of our bargaining. And she's like, fine, in her like nicest Emily way. And so I like stopped and tried to eat it. And I basically like ate all the toppings off of it. And then I was like, I can't, like, I could either breathe or I can eat. Like it's one or the other. Um, but we did get like a little bit in me, and she's like, no, that's fine. And so we start like going up, and I knew Billy and Sarah were planning on being on Grant Swamp Pass, and I didn't want to have a repeat of Handy's where I was like getting there as the last of the light was hitting. And so I think it was like really good for me because I was motivated and I knew I really was like trying to work hard on that section. But it was 6 o'clock when we left Chapman Gulch. And I sort of set a goal for
That's mile
myself of like
82 for our
mile
listeners. Yeah.
82. And I set a goal of getting up to the top of Grant Swamp Pass by 8:30, which I was like, that sounds kind of ambitious because it's just like straight up. And Grant Swamp Pass is this like beast of a insane wall that you climb up, like
How
it's
do
one
you
of the
even
parts.
climb that? I mean,
It's,
this is
yeah,
the
it's,
counterclockwise version, as I'm sure listeners can tell. But last year I was at Hardrock watching people throw themselves off this pass. Like it's straight down. It's almost like you're skiing, but without your skis and without snow. So you're just like throwing yourself into this like boulder field of death.
yeah.
I don't know.
And there's
But
no
at
real
least you got to
path
climb
because
it, then descend it. I don't know. What did you think?
there's no real path because it's covered in snow until like the week before the race. It always melts out last, and so when the snow lifts, the rocks are really loose, like nothing's packed down, right? And so it is truly just a wall of like small pebbles and big boulders, and everything's shifting, and like you step on something, and the whole slope kind of shifts, and then you're looking below you to try to figure out like who's below you, and just like there's so much going on there. But anyways, Emily and I like we like made pretty good time and I felt like I was actually able to climb. But it was sort of one of those things where
Yeah.
like she wanted me to eat gels, which was like a bridge too far. That was like I hadn't eaten gels since like the day before in the morning at mile 11. But I was actually able to start like sipping on gels a little bit and I would just like have to stop. And like I would sit on a rock. That was my deal to her is like I will eat some of this gel if you let me sit on a rock for 30 seconds and do it. Like you're just sort of reduced to like but I'd also been like
It's
awake
like a
and moving
toddler,
for like
like a tantrum.
35 hours. And so I was like, I'm just really tired. So I will eat this gel
Yeah.
for you, but I just want to sit on a rock for a second. Like I'm tired.
It's a
And
good
then we keep
compromise.
going. Yeah. It's totally like a toddler. But we were like actually at the point where we were passing a couple people, which I was like, I turned to Emily and I was like, literally, like I haven't passed anybody since the beginning of the race. Like this is encouraging. This is like nice to see. And we like made good time. And as we were getting closer to the like the big wall of Grant Swamp Pass, I was like, it's only 7:30. Like we'd only been going for an hour and a half. And I was like, oh my gosh, like we're actually this is good for me. Like I don't know that I've ever done this faster. And so I was like really motivated. So we charged up it as hard as we could. And, you know, it's as hard as you'd expect it to be. But I knew that. And I think that was like, I just went into it knowing this is going to be hard. And you're just like literally using your hands and you're grabbing onto things and you're sort of just climbing your way up there. And we crested the top at 7:50 p.m. So we did that section in an hour and 50 minutes, which I was like over the moon with because for whatever reason I decided like 2.5 hours would be really good. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like that was really cool. And when we got up there, it was like gorgeous. Like just the light was just golden and pink. And it was so pretty. And Emily and I just were like whooping and hugging for like a minute before she told me I had to keep going. But like we, you know, like we did take a minute and really like took it in. And it was so beautiful and so gorgeous. And Billy wasn't up there. And I was like, I think I beat him up here. Like, I think he doesn't think, like, I don't think he was anticipating that I'd get there that fast, which was so funny. And so we start coming down the other side, and I could actually see him along the slope, and he was sort of like making his way along like Island Lake to come up to the top. And we start like whooping and hollering as we get closer to him, and his whole jaw just like dropped and he's like, what are you doing here so fast, you know, and just like almost like in shock. And it was kind of fun, and we were like just totally enjoying ourselves, and it's sort of giddy, you know, like the kid that's just like done really well. Like
And Sarah
and
was there too, right?
Sarah was there too.
Yep.
So it was really fun because they were able to get some beautiful shots, but also like we didn't really stop. They just sort of followed us and got some footage, and Emily and I
And
were
this,
just sort of like giggling
I was
at
gonna,
Billy and just like how shocked he was.
I was just gonna say that this is the iconic view that
Hmm.
everyone sees. Like when you see Island Lake, this is right after Grant Swan Pass or right before, depending on which way Hard Rock is. But it is iconic. Like this is people do not come to Hard Rock to spectate without seeing this lake. So that was just really special that you were able to see it right at sunset again, like Handy's now Island Lake and Grant Swamp Pass. Like you are in the most iconic places in the whole course at sunset. Like I just think that's really
Yeah.
cool and
No, it
special. And you had
totally.
your husband there to film you. It's so rad.
I know. And
Yeah.
because I paced that section twice in the past, the last 18 miles, I think psychologically, I just told myself, like, if you get to Chapman Gulch, you're going to do this, you know this. And that really carried me. And getting up to
Mm.
Grant Swamp Pass, I was just like, we're doing this, you know?
That's right, because you had paced Mike Wardian twice in that section. And this was a big thing for Natalie, one of your crew chief, who said that, who was like, it's in the bag. Like she knows the section like the back of her hand. She's with Emily, who's not going to let her quit. And not like you were thinking of quitting, but like not going to let her take it easy, is going to be really pushing it. So it was just like all of us, the energy had completely swung the opposite direction of being concerned about you, worried about you, loving you, but like, also just this deep rooted, like, is this actually going to happen, to like,
oh, she's killing it. We're all staring at the tracker going like, wow, like what is happening? So fun.
That must have
Okay,
been
so
fun
you,
for you guys to see that
oh my
because
God.
you saw my pace like picking up and then just
Oh,
sort of like you're getting like updates from Billy like oh my gosh she's flying now like she's and I was like passing people and I started passing like a bunch of people like a dozen people and I was like oh where did all these runners come from and like I recognized all of them from earlier in the race which is also weird to be like oh we're all still out here like hi how are you oh my gosh, like what a long, crazy day and a half, it just sort
we're
of like cool.
transformed as humans. Like, are we even the same people?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, right? Like I think I've aged a decade, but here we are.
Yeah.
But also like to be feeling good then was really cool because a lot of people were not, and I had had so many hours of that myself that I was just like not taking that for granted and just
Yeah.
sort of like really appreciating like I can run now. And it was like once that switch really flipped, like I was running like well and that was just sort of like finally like this is cool and like I felt like I that's where my fitness sort of came in. I was like I am fit, I can do this, like I did train
Yeah.
for this, like my body is still holding up which shows me like I did put the work in and all that's there and so that just like gave me some confidence and we just like kept picking people off and picking up speed and we came into KT station which is like what mile is that, like just over 90 I think, heading into the last section and I knew there was like one more big climb and you go through a bunch of creek crossings and again like all these things it's just sort of like by that point in the race you're sort of immune to all these challenges but there's like still really hard right and like the last climb is
And you're in the middle of
so
the night, like it's dark
it's so
out.
steep. Yeah, that by
Yeah.
that point it was dark again and we're back in the night and it's just like Emily and I and she was just like so great and we're just like talking about life. I mean, I say talking and I would like say a few things and then I'd have to like catch my breath again and like like it's still like wasn't easy, but it was like nice to actually feel like I could run and sort of be present and like, enjoy it a little bit. And yeah, we just like grinded our way up that last climb and the whole way up I was thinking to myself like this is it, this is the last climb of Hardrock, this is like the last big push and like that sort of started sinking in like this surreal feeling of like
Hmm.
32,000 feet of climbing and I'm on the last 500 feet, just sort of like whoa. And that was like a cool moment and I passed like three girls on that last section and I didn't care about that, like I wasn't like paying attention to that but I was just feeling like strong and that was like really nice, right? And like just sort of like wow like we're really going and like this is it, I'm here, I'm doing Hard Rock. And I think that was the first time I actually like let myself since the
Hmm.
beginning of the race let myself really like appreciate that and really be like I'm gonna do it like. And that was so special. We rolled through the last aid station. I tried to drink a cup of Coke and immediately got nauseous again. And I think it was because my body was just like done with everything. And so I just looked at Emily and I was like, I know you want me to like eat more, but I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to do the last like 6 miles on fumes. I just like can't, like, I just don't make me. And she was like, bless her heart. She's like, it's okay. Like you could just, whatever you need. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to drink water, like all the way to the finish. Like we're just beyond. And so we're like running down the last few miles, and you go through these like crazy boulder fields that are on really steep slopes. Like they're just sort of cut in. The trail's cut into the side of the boulder field. It's a really exposed slope, and it's like a couple miles of it. Like it goes on and on. And we were navigating it fine. We were actually like moving really well. And then out of the blue, my toe just like clipped a rock and before I just didn't even like realize it, all of a sudden I felt myself launching off the side of the trail, and I like head first went off the side of the trail on this steep boulder field, and I bounced, like I hit the rocks and I was trying to stop my fall, and then I bounced and I hit another section of rocks, and like head first with my arms and my poles out in front of me. And it was just like wild, Katie, because I had felt like I hadn't fallen all day. I hadn't taken a single fall. And I felt very in control of my like limbs. I was like, my ankles were strong, my legs were strong. So I wasn't really like, it wasn't like that was on my radar. And I was just like, in a second, all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm going head first down the slope and it's really steep and I can't stop myself, and like came to a stop and I sort of looked up the trail at Emily, and she's standing above me, and she was like really quiet for a second because I think we were both just like, "What just happened?" And she goes, "Are you okay?" And I started like feeling myself because I was like so full of adrenaline. I was like, I don't think I would feel it if like something was broken yet. Like, so I was like literally patting down my body, feeling for like bones sticking out, and looked at my poles, and they were like totally broken in half in a couple places, just like totally smashed. My headlamp had like flown off and was like over on the rocks over there. Like my pack stuff was coming out of my pack, but I was like shockingly, like I don't think I broke anything, which was just sort of like a miracle. Like honestly, truly a miracle. There was a
Yeah.
hard fall. I was going pretty fast, and I went head first down a slope. And it was just like in that moment, I think I realized like just how difficult this course is and how many things like can go wrong. And even being 4 miles away from the finish, if I'd broken something, I'd like, I don't know what it would have happened. Like, would I have been able to hobble out of there and like make it by the end of the race? Would I have had to like get someone to come help me out and like DNF? Like, I don't know what would have happened, but like, I was only 4 miles away from the finish, and we still weren't done yet. Like, it was just sort of like, oh my God, you know? And it was hard because I think after that I got back on the trail, and obviously like I was so shaky, and like my confidence was gone, and I was like wobbling around, and I had these broken poles that I was like carrying in my hand. And a couple runners passed us at that point, and I was just like, I was like falling, like I kept falling. It was like all of a sudden everything went from being super confident to just like I was like tripping over everything. It was like, and I just told Emily, I'm like, I'm gonna slow way down. I'm just like, I just can't risk anything. And we slowed way down and just sort of were trying to just keep moving. And that's when I started seeing the Stegosaurus and the T-Rex in the forest in front of me,
It's like your
very
body is
vividly.
just losing it now. Like it gave your
Mhm.
body and mind permission to like
Yeah,
really go
yeah.
there.
It
Yeah.
actually did. I actually think that was like that moment sort of tripped the switch of like we were cool and calm and collected, and we were doing this, and boom, 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 and all of a sudden I was like, I am like a shaky mess, and I'm all over the place, and I'm like Gumby, and I'm seeing like crazy things, and like every tree looked like it was a sculpture or a scarecrow or a guy in a hoodie. I was seeing a lot of guys in hoodies, which was really scary.
That's
And like
scary.
it was a weird place, and Emily kept being like, Hilary, come back to me, like be present, like stay with me. And I was like, yeah, 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 no, we're good, but Emily, can I tell you about that tree over there, like, like she's like,
You're like,
oh my
please tell me
gosh.
it's real, or actually tell me it's not real. Yeah, yeah.
Right, I know, it was like wild, and I knew I could hear myself. I was like lucid enough to know like this is wild, and I feel like I'm on drugs, but also, Hillary, you're 3 miles from the finish at this point. Like, just keep it together, girl, you know? And so it was just like really interesting the last few miles because I really battled my
Wow.
mind. Because I think at that point I just like I'd lost that sort of like edge, but I was so close to finish. I wasn't giving up, but I was just like fighting. Like every 30 seconds I was like fighting to get back to, being present, and just like couldn't. And so we just like did our best, and like I walked everything that seemed even the slightest bit scary or exposed or anything, and just sort of like made it, and came up the last climb into town. And I think at that point I started to finally like let it sink in, but I think I was also just like a little bit numb from the whole experience. They came down that last chute, and then all of you guys were standing on the road with your headlamps on, like this little cute party at 2 a.m., being like, woo, like there's nothing cuter than your friends waiting for you on the side of a road in the middle of the night, like,
I mean, you came hours and hours earlier than we were expecting
oh,
you.
I
Like,
guess
we
so.
all thought we were going to get a nap in, but nope. Like, it was no, we were all first too excited because we looked at the tracker and we were like, at KT, we're like, whoa. And then at Putnam, you were in and out of there in a minute. I didn't realize it was a water only station. So I'm like, oh, she is flying, like we're all like, oh God, all these projected times on this tracker is wrong. Like, this girl is going to kill it. And you did. I mean, which is wild because we didn't know about the fall, of course, at that time. So we're just seeing the projected, and you were actually before the early projected time on the tracker with the fall, you know, which,
That's
and
cool.
with slowing
Yeah.
down so much. So it just really shows, is a really testament to how quickly you guys were moving. Like you really bombed it. I'm just in awe that your quads were able to do that after God, 43 hours of racing. Like it's just wild. Yeah, you're incredible. But yes, okay. So
It's-
we all ran in that final shoot together.
yeah. Yeah. And that was just sort of like, yeah, I mean, that moment, actually, like we watched it on the live stream this afternoon when we were driving, which was kind of fun to see like that little like coming into the finish, and it just like I don't know, that moment's so special. Like Sarah got some beautiful photos of me at the finish and me and Billy and just like all of us there and the everything wrapped up in it. And I'm so glad to have all that because I think the actual moment felt like such a, a blur. Like
Mm.
it was like this sort of release of everything. Like, oh, you can stop now. Like you're it's okay. Like you're done now. And just sort of that realization, like I worked so hard to get there and but yeah, I'll never forget that moment of just like running down the street with everybody and coming around the corner and seeing the rock and just be like, you did it. You did, you know, like this was so far from anything you thought would happen out here. But at the same time, how could you expect Hard Rock to be anything other than the most difficult and challenging thing you've ever done? And I think that there's a reason, like I started putting into the lottery in 2016. I was 26 years old, 27 years old, 36 years old now when I finally run it. And like, I'm glad that I didn't run it earlier.
Mm.
I think I was probably in a stronger like athlete mindset when I was a few years ago before the career stuff really took over. But like mentally and who I am as a human, like you need to have all these experiences to do this race well. And I think you'll have like a more profound experience for that. And so it was just like this really crazy sort of culmination of so many things and to fight through like yeah, I'm proud of it. And that's my Hard Rock story. And I have a lot of nutrition that I didn't get to eat,
Yeah,
but
I'm like,
not
we
for
need to get
lack
to
of
questions
people
because we are deep
trying.
into the pod. There are
Oh yeah.
so many people that love you, Hilary. The amount of humans in your corner is pretty overwhelming. And the questions that flooded in when we posted today, just a couple of hours ago, that we were
So
going to pod
fun.
together. I mean, it's like so fun how many people are so excited. A lot of people just responded like, you know, any questions for Hilary? And the response is everything, like all the things, you know. But
Which I hope
really
we
just,
answered some just by going through it
yes,
all.
I think we
But
answered a lot. There were some
we'll do some
really
rapid
good ones.
fire.
I'm
Ooh, and
gonna,
before we
oh,
start, why don't I just like go through my gear because I think everyone was
yep, that
asking me
there's
some
a
gear
lot of questions
questions.
on gear. Go for it.
So my shoes, I was wearing the Arc'teryx Silent Pros, which I've been training in, and I had two pairs of those, and I switched them out so I could dry my feet, which was really important. And I had multiple sock changes along the way as well to keep my feet dry. I was wearing merino wool socks because that just like I find that the best for my feet. For my shorts, I was wearing the John G 5-inch pace shorts, which I've talked about a lot on the pod. And those shorts were so great. And it's what I wore the whole race. And I did follow through with my strategy of changing into a size bigger at Telluride at mile 75. And I was really glad
Yes,
for it
yes.
because that extra like room around my stomach felt really nice, just like loosen everything off a little bit. And yeah, so shout out to the Jaji Pace shorts. Those were awesome. They are also a sponsor of our podcast. And so I definitely want to give them a shout out. You can get 10% off your order if you go to janji.com and use the code Trail Network. And those shorts
Do
I've
it for
had
Hilary,
so
guys.
many
Just do
questions on. So we're just going to call them the Hilary short. They will rename them one day, I'm sure.
it.
If you hear that, guys, you better. But yes, and then for the rest of my gear,
Wait,
I
quick
had
question on the gear.
yeah.
There was somebody asked, did you wish you had toe socks? Oh, this is
Ooh,
Elaine Laurel.
I did not because I have not trained in toe socks, and so I I totally could appreciate like I taped my feet between my toes, and so I think toe socks could maybe replace some of that, but it was something that I would like want to train with a lot more before committing to on the race. But heard good things. I just find it kind of weird the squeaky feeling of the toe socks between my feet. I don't know.
You did
But
put
yeah.
some lube on with
Mhm.
like a little bit of lube on the feet when they were taped as well.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that helped?
I do. Yeah. And I didn't walk away with a lot of blisters. I have a few hot spots. I was already losing a couple toenails from like past treating stuff. And so I was like mostly concerned about sort of existing things. And so overall, the feet were like managed pretty well. And I think changing the shoes, having the dry socks, just sort of like really staying on top of that really made a big difference. I also wore sun shirts the whole race, which I feel like is really important, especially in mountain weather. You're so exposed. So I had the Arc'teryx Tama sun hoodie on for most of the race, as well as the Path Projects Wadi hoodie, both of those sun shirts. And I was just like alternating sun shirts. And then at nighttime, I had a merino wool long sleeve shirt on. And then I also put on my waterproof pants because it got cold up there and a windbreaker. Like you're just sort of layers on, layers off. I had these like nice Gore-Tex mitts for my hands, and which I would put on as well. There's a lot of just like weather changes. Like you go through a really cold section through creeks and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden it'd be like really like suffocatingly hot, and you'd be pulling everything on and off again. So there's just like a lot of sort of managing that. I had a buff at night, which is also really helpful, I find, with my headlamp. I don't like headlamps just bouncing around as it is. And then obviously baseball hats during the day to try to give me some sun coverage. And for packs, I had the Arc'teryx 7 liter Norvan, and I had two of those, and I would alternate at each aid station, and my crew would have one, and they would like pull everything out so they could see what I'd eaten or not eaten and repack it with everything for the next section, make sure I had like a fresh headlamp, all the things. And then I would just like take off my pack when I got to the aid station and swap it and have the new pack, which I've never done before. And it felt like such a luxury. And I know, Katie, you probably do stuff like that
I've
all the
only
time at
done
your
that.
races. I've never done that before.
But I will say that we did take your like all of your gear was in a Ziploc bag. So if it did pour, it did not rain. There was no lightning. That was a worry of yours before going into the
Mm-hmm.
race. But we were really cognizant that it could be, thunderstorms happen in the mountains, and you can't predict it really. So yeah, I think putting things in Ziploc bags is a really key thing as well. So we would just move that like Ziploc bag from pack to pack as well,
Yeah.
which made things
And my
easy.
tracker had to go from pack to pack. So there were certain things that like had to be done in the aid station, and we
Yep.
really were careful. And like when I changed my shorts, I had to make sure I changed my bib over to my other shorts, like that sort of thing. But overall, I thought that worked really well, and like I was really happy with my gear choices. And I was using these poles. They were French poles. Le Col is the name, and they were great until I broke them by them breaking my fall. But they lived a good life.
They saved your femur.
They
So there
saved
you
my
go.
femur. Yeah. But yeah. And then someone was asking me, I wore this like hair elastic thing that wrapped around my like hair, trying to keep it from going crazy. And I picked that up from some surfing videos I saw where I was like, oh, like, because I have long hair and it gets like awful in humidity and everything. And they would wrap these like elastic bands around their hair to help with the craziness. So I started doing that, and I do feel like it helped. Nothing's perfect. I still end up with this like nubby little braid that's like shriveled into itself and takes forever to like work out afterwards with a bottle of conditioner, but it wasn't terrible. Yeah. And I also find, I don't know, for the girlies with long hair, like my hair gets stuck in my pack, like it kind of like gets caught up in like the whatever's on the back of my pack. And so just sort of trying to like keep it out of my way as much as possible was good. Um, yeah, what else have we got for questions?
Okay, we have so many. I can't even. This one's really. I love this question. This is from Pishin8670. He says, "Congrats, Hilary. What was the biggest shift in your eye from photographer to hard rock finisher?"
Oh, that's Phil. Shout out to Phil. Um,
Okay.
I think, yeah. So, I mean, I've been out on the course a couple times as a photographer and then now racing it. I think I just sort of like my pacers, I didn't really appreciate how incredibly difficult this course is when you string all these sections together at once and do them consecutively. And I think that just gave me a whole other level of appreciation for the race, for everybody doing it from first place person to last place person. Like it is just so hard. There's no gimmies. There's no sort of breaks from the like unrelenting up and down. And I think it just gave me another layer of sort of like, wow, this race is so challenging. And then also I would say as I was out there, there's like all these sections that weren't even on my radar as like beautiful areas that I'm like, man, if I
Mm,
come back, I totally need to be out here to get a shot and not like at Grant Swamp Pass, even though I love it because that's where everybody goes. And so I totally have like a few more places in my head of just like this would be a really cool spot, you know. I was mentally
I
taking
love
photos
that.
some of
Yeah,
the
were you
time.
ever tempted to take out your phone? Did you take any pictures along the way? Did you have your
I
phone
took
with
a
you?
couple. They're
I'm
like
sure you did.
I did have my phone with me. I only listened to music until I picked up Pacers, but I did have my phone with me. But like, yeah, I took very few photos. Some of them were just sort of really bad, like crooked, like whatever photos, because I was so out of it. I did a little bit of sort of filming, talking as I went at the beginning, and then I sort of gave up on that as I wasn't feeling well. But yeah, just sort of like I didn't have a lot of extra energy for that, but I was taking
Yeah.
lots of mental notes.
Yeah. Okay. Having run it now, this is from Billy. Having run it now, how would you train differently for the race, if at all?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is I would like to live at altitude for a while before I run it. So that's like the challenge, and that's something we didn't have the luxury of having. As far as training goes, like I do feel like I did my best. I really did. Like I crammed in everything I could with our work schedule, and I was probably hitting like 60 to 70 miles a week for sort of my peak, like 5, 6 weeks before the race with a 50-mile race in there. And then Western States sort of happened, and that was like an early taper because I just couldn't. And that I sort of did the last like week and a half in Hardrock. I started hiking and sort of being out in the Alpine more to kind of ease into the race. But I don't know. It was as good as I could do. I think in other circumstances, I'd love to like obviously be able to train more and at altitude, but like that would require quitting my job and, just living out in the mountains, which doesn't sound terrible at all.
I mean, she still wants to live in the mountains. That's good.
Yeah,
She doesn't hate the mountains after this
that's
experience.
true.
um, would you go back?
Ooh, you never say never. Um,
Too soon.
I,
Maybe too soon.
I mean, I'd like to go back in a couple years. I think I'd like to like take a little bit of time to do other things but like I think I would like to go back in a couple years. I know they say you have to do the course both directions to be a true hard rocker, which I don't know. I feel like pretty proud of my hard rock finish right now,
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna call you a hard rocker.
yeah,
I don't know.
like
I
what
think
more
you
do
got
you
the
want from
full hard
me?
rock experience.
I did. I saw the course very intimately. But yeah, I do think I understand why you finish this race and it kind of gets in your blood and you want to do it again. And I think the reason for that is because everybody finishes leaving like they feel like they have left something out on the table. And that's
Yeah.
just the nature of the course, how hard it is, the altitude. I think you could ask Zach and Katie and Ludo and all of the people at the front and the back, and they'd say like there's things they do differently. So that does sort of kind of get in your head.
I mean, I have to ask, and many people did ask, like, what did you do to help get you through the pain cave, right? So mentally, physically, and we kind of walk through this, but lots of questions about like, why didn't you throw in the towel? Why didn't you give up? Why did you keep pushing on when it was so rough?
I mean, I think that's the whole thing, right? Like there was so many times where I think either past versions of myself or at different races would have been like, this is enough. And I think that's where it's a combination of like past experiences. Like High Lonesome in 2022, I had a really hard race at altitude and I barely finished and I just sort of got through it because I really wanted the Hardrock qualifier. And I think I learned from that race. And I think every race I've done, I've learned something about myself from. And you bring all of that to something like Hardrock, and you know that you have a layer of like ability to dig deep when things are really hard. And I think I went into the race being like, this took me so long to be here. Like I want to give it my all. And like, yes, I have goals, but like ultimately I want to finish. And so that was truly my like guiding light was to finish. And some of that is to get out of the like never category in the lottery. Like not gonna lie, there's a big incentive there to if I wanted to run it again, I have a much better shot having finished. but I think a lot of it is just like having a lot of deep respect for the course and for the opportunity and for the sacrifices that I've made, that Billy and I have made together for me to be here, for the like life choices that we've made for me to be able to run this race, for my crew and my pacers, for everybody that was part of my race that came out and gave their time. I just think that I really thought about all that, and I thought about all the people that were part of my journey, and I thought, my ego or my disappointment in my day is not a good enough reason for me to quit. And so there are good reasons to quit. Like if there's physical danger or there's something happens, yes, like absolutely that comes first. But for me, it was like nothing I experienced out there was a good enough reason for me to quit. And even when I knew I was getting slower and getting closer to cutoffs, I was like, they're going to have to cut me off, like I'm going to go until they cut me off, which in itself is a very humbling thing to just sort of come to terms
Mm.
with. But also, like, I think a very pure thing that we love about the sport, really, like if you can get to that point and just sort of distill it down to an experience. So that was my why.
Amen. It's hard to have another question after that, because that kind of summarizes all of it. It was a huge journey for you. We're all so proud of you. I do want you to tease a little bit about what the project is that Billy and Sarah were working on out there, and you were doing some filming, and some of your pacers were as well. Do you want to tease that, or should we edit this out?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely no secret. Like, obviously, Billy is an incredible filmmaker and storyteller. And when I got into Hardrock, we said that we wanted to tell a story about my race and not just about my race, but about my whole journey of getting here and sort of becoming the person I am. And I think how much ultra running has impacted my life along the way. And so yeah, we're working on a story. Billy's working on it, and we're gonna hopefully have a film to share with everybody. I don't know, sometime later this year type
Sometime.
of thing. Yeah, we have a few things on the go right now, but it's really like it's cool to kind of be able to shape that now because obviously before the race, not knowing what would happen, you're sort of like it's a little bit of a mystery, and now we have a better sense of the story and how it's all going to come together. And ultimately, I think for me and Billy as storytellers, we want to help inspire other people that they can do hard things too, and that you can push yourself and you can discover more about yourself than you thought you could through these experiences. And it's like at some point, like it's just ultra running, man. Like it's just trail running. We choose to do this sort of silly. It's like a real privilege to get to do these things, but it can teach you about yourself. It can inform you and make you a stronger and better person. And like, that's what I want people to take away from my like struggle of an experience and just watching people do these things that are so difficult is just that I think that ordinary people can do really extraordinary things. And I think that we're capable of a lot more than we think we are. And you don't need to be an elite athlete and you don't need to be like, the person shattering the records to do things that are profound and that have an impact. And
Mhm.
so that's, I think, where I'm landing with all this and it feels valuable. So that's what we're trying to tell.
It sure is. Hilary, thank you so much for your time talking us through all of this. I hope it was kind of fun for you and maybe a little bit of closure on your experience. You're really just a
So
couple
fun.
days after the race, so I know that it's shocking to me how you are just able to articulate the experience so well and really take us through your highs and lows. So really, thank you. We love you deeply. Everyone that's listening, I know, is even more of a fan of Hilary Yang. And what an incredible privilege to be a part of that journey, a small part. And it was just a highlight for me in my ultra running career to be a part of that. So thank you, Hilary, from me. And just
Don't make
really,
me
you're so
cry,
inspirational,
Katie. Thank you.
super inspirational.
It was
So
so fun to have you out there. I love you.
very fun. So well, we will continue to follow along on all of Hilary's adventures because there's lots more happening this year. But this was a big one. Everything was leading towards Hardrock. So
a big like whew sigh, like it happened. You kissed the rock, and we are so, so, so happy for you.
Thanks, girl. I am, yeah, it's fun to talk it all through. I hope you guys like learn some things. I'm sorry if I didn't get to all the questions, but you can always fire me a DM and I will do my best to get back to you. And just like keep pushing yourself and
Yeah.
putting things out there, put big dreams out there because it's pretty cool now to say I'm a hard rocker. I even put up the like license plate holder, the finisher one, and
Yes.
I was like, oh, I never do this for any race, but this one feels special. So
Yeah.
yeah, but thanks,
You are
thanks
forever
everyone for listening
transformed.
along. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks again, Hilary. And thank you for all of our listeners. We know that you have lots of options with podcasts. So we really thank you for tuning in to this one. Until next time, see you on the trails.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Hilary, for sharing your story. I loved every minute of that recap. We want to close to say that while Hilary was running, a beloved member of the ultra running community, Elaine Stipula, passed away while running on the Hardrock course. Elaine had an immense impact on the ultra running community, and I have to believe that Elaine was with Hilary when she fell and will forever protect fellow Hardrockers. Our hearts are with her friends and family, and her memory will live on. Thank you, Elaine.